Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Success Thursday this week with Omar Perez. Hey, Omar. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So, Omar, today's Thursday, and of course, on Thursday, we like to dive deep into the success definition to help us focus on our work as Scrum Masters. But there's a tool we use very often, the retrospective, to help us get there. So before we dive into what success is, do share with us, what's your favorite retrospective format and why?
Actually, my favorite one is not the one I use the most, but my favorite one is by, it's the 6 Thinking Hats, which sometimes I rename as the 6 Thinking Cats, if I know there's any pet owner in the team. As many of you would know, it's based on Edward de Bono's 6 Thinking Hats model, where, it urges you to take 6 different vantage points towards, some situation, in this case, so I think it's great because it enriches the perspective so much. I mean, we can go over each one. For example, blue, as most of you know, blue is about process. So in a certain way, it could cover that retrospective format that's about, more of, less of, start doing, keep doing, so it kind of covers that one. Then white is about, objective truth, like scientific. So some teams, they love metrics in their retrospective. They use the CFDs or the velocity, charts and all that stuff. So we can use metrics, even like health raters. Then the red one, that's about emotions. That's the harder one. People sometimes don't feel that comfortable. They don't open up, to express their emotions. But hey, we all suffer like frustration, so the mad, sad, glad retrospective that some people like so much, well, that will be the red hat. Then the yellow one, yellow, bright, sun, positivity. So for me, that I equate that to everything has to do with those parts of the retrospective that are about gratitude, accomplishments, kudos, or similar things, where the team celebrates something. Then there's the green hat, which it's associated with creativity and innovation or thinking outside the box or experimentation, which for me, it's as important. An agile culture needs to go hand in hand with experimentation culture. So sometimes I urge the team, I challenge the team to be more, to try things, even if sometimes they fail. And then finally, of course, black hat, it's about a very important part of the retrospective, which is, everything that's critical, that, cautious.
What ifs.
Well, yeah, exactly. Risks, penalties, weaknesses, So it's important but in that aspect, I always start to tell, let's clarify what's under our influence or control and what is not. Because there's no point in complaining about something we cannot change, at least now. So it's a very rich, of course, warning. You can generate so many insights in the retrospective that you may need like 2 or 3 sessions if you want to go over all of them, because that's a lot of insights you can. But at least you have a backlog, so you don't waste the time generating things. You can retrieve them in the next session.
That's actually, it's quite curious that you mentioned the 6 Thinking Hats, because we published about a month ago, when this goes live, another episode with a guest that also talks about the 6 Thinking Hats from Edward de Bono, and it's something that I don't think that it has been mentioned very often here on the podcast. On the other hand, it is a very powerful model, especially for high risk novelty endeavors that we might get into. It's really important to have these different perspectives you were describing, because that prevents us from making what might seem at that time very silly mistakes. And the black hat and the red hat are actually quite important in this regard, right? Like maybe the emotions that a new project bring are excitement and enthusiasm, but they might also be dread and fear and anxiety, right? So it's important to discuss those, and then of course the black hat about what are all the risks, what are the things that could go wrong, and it's perfectly okay to acknowledge that we can't solve some of those, and if they go wrong, we just have to say, well, they went wrong. But as you said, there are things that we have influence over, and we can prevent, and if not prevent, we can at least prepare a response before they happen. So the six thinking hats is a very rich, as you said, way of thinking about whatever topic might be, for example, a future project. But obviously, we do all of that because we want to help our team succeed. And that drives us to the question of the week, I would say, which is, Omar, what does success mean for you as a Scrum Master?
I think that there's three levels in which we operate, or we could operate as a Scrum Masters. There's the team level, which is probably the most we're most well known for, but there's also the individual level, and then, if possible, the organizational level, right? So I think that being trained and jumping from one level to the other on a regular basis, that's critical. Because at the team level, it's like there's like forces, it's like going back to Newton's seal of forces. You have the product owner. So our role is to challenge them, to be like value oriented, to make things valuable. And then you have the technical part. The force that we try to challenge them to make things feasible and maybe also scalable and viable. And then for ourselves, Scrum Master, we need to try to make all this work sustainable. There's no burnout. And if possible, enjoyable, right? So all these forces that coalesce, and we need to find the balance. So none of them dominates over the others. But then also the individual level is very important, and you got to find a balance between people's agendas. Have agenda to grow, professionally, and also experiment with new technologies sometimes, but also to work for the team, right? So this balance of, because otherwise they fall into this like, oh, this is not my job, or this is not my responsibility. That's something we should avoid. So we need to find a way of motivating them, and also that they learn how to work in a team, because being a team player, it's crucial for their growth as professional, besides all the technical skills that they may acquire. And then, of course, at an organizational level, we should try to influence or take part in, even if we are not decision makers, and I don't pretend to be one, at least influence those conversations that they have, behind closed doors at a higher level when they're thinking about reorg. Because we've seen a lot of organizational patterns that affect the team's, performance. So we can at least, warn them or advise them on how to minimize those organizational anti-patterns. So operating at these three levels, and being trained to do that, I think it's a key to be a successful Scrum Master.
So we of course understand quite well, especially here on the podcast, the team level, right? That's what we are talking about all the time, working with teams. But you did mention two levels that we don't very often explore: the individual level and organizational level. So what would you mean? What would you define as success for Scrum Masters? The work that they have to do at the individual level, and then later on at the organization. Let's start with individual level. What does success look like when we're working at the individual level?
I'm an Agile coach, but like many Agile coaches, we've never been trained as what we call lifestyle coaching. So we're more of a skill-based coaching or directive coaching. You can do this. It's more mentoring or consulting. I've also been trained as a coach, a lifestyle coach. And the difference is that you're non-directive coaching. And your only goal, you don't tell people what to do. You just make them as resourceful as possible by the ancient art of asking questions, right? So basically, they are resourceful enough, to find the best ways for them to, be engaged, be motivated, and grow. So we just help them through that process, So my recommendation to our audience is that if, in case you haven't, try to get trained as a coach, by the International Coaching Federation. There are many like academies out there, because it's a double, it's a parallel journey. It's it's on skills that you use to that you can use with people on one-on-one interactions, but also it's an inward-looking journey. You learn so much about yourself. And if you don't have the time or to do that, at least where I suggest a little tip is do a journal, keep some journal, some reflective journal. Every day, just ask yourself this question: what did I learn? What did I learn today? Because every day you learn something, and in the professional, environment, you can do it in an app, you can do it like voice messages, you can do it, like
pen and paper.
Yeah, exactly. But just this practice, it's what, 5-10 minutes? Okay, I call it. I do a daily with myself. I do the daily with my teams, but then every day at the end of the day, or whenever everyone goes to sleep at home, I do a daily with myself. Basically, I just answer this question: what did I learn today?
Absolutely. And when it comes to learning, of course, the organizational level also brings quite a lot of challenges. And even though we do recognize that not all organizational aspects are under our influence, it's important for us to define what success looks like in that domain as well. So for you, Omar, what does being a Scrum Master, a successful Scrum Master at the organizational level, what does that mean?
You can apply this like in the one-on-one like coaching, that if you get trained that you use with your team members, with developers, you can also apply them with middle managers. In the sense that it's called leadership or a training or executive training. So more or less the same skills apply, even if people are at different level. So if you gain their trust, you can influence them. And they will consult on you about, we're thinking of doing this and that. Even if they're the ultimate decision makers, they may want, to use you as a thinking partner. A coach, at the end of the day, it's a thinking partner, a sounding board, if you want. So they decide, but at least you have nothing vested. You have no agenda. My agenda is to make people and teams and organizations as resourceful as possible. That's what makes me successful. I don't have my agenda. I'm not in some like career path, towards like upper management, C-level. No, that's my agenda. So because they know that I have no vested agenda, and I've been trained to listen to them and to ask them like powerful questions and make them hopefully more resourceful, or at least help them clarify things, or sometimes you get stuck, help them like get unstuck. Then you can influence, from the backside, the organization.
Absolutely. Being helping other people be more resourceful and being considered a thinking partner. That's a great definition of success for us as Scrum Masters. Thank you for sharing that, Omar.
My pleasure.
Part of a successful Scrum Master job is to help the product owner. Tomorrow we explore that critical role in Scrum, the product owner role. Tune in to learn about product owner anti-patterns, what you can do to help the product owner, and a real-life example of what a great product owner is and what made it so. Tomorrow on our Friday Product Owner episode. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.